As a child, I hated the Palestinians. I grew up in a house where knowing about Palestinian refugees was as important as eating your greens in other people's houses. Supposedly good for you, but God, were they boring when adults went on about them. It was my grandparents who went on the most. So concerned were they, family legend has it, that age 50, they packed the Land Rover they used to bring in the logs with a ton of medicine and blankets, locked up their house in Ireland, and trundled across Europe in the general direction of Jordan.
Today in the Near East, a suffering people, the Palestine Arab refugees, are struggling for survival. 750,000 displaced human beings are dependent upon charity for their very existence.
I'm concerned with the miscarriage of justice and the double standards that go on with the Americans and the British over Palestine.
We don't forget a great injustice.
But sod's law, now I'm nearing them in age and wisdom. I wish for nothing more than to be sat at their kitchen table, hearing about their good work with the Palestinians. I've often sifted through my grandma's book where she'd collected the memories of 30 years of their aid work, wondering whether this is something I could do. So that's how it started. I didn't want to make a film about the Palestinians. I wanted to make a film about us. Flying over the desert that first time, I remembered my grandma sending me back across the fields to return a Jaffa orange I'd bought for her. "Don't ever buy things from Israel," she'd said. "Don't you know what they've done to the Palestinians?" Because this was a place that had always been talked about, I immediately recognised the names, but had no idea what to expect. So here I was, 30 years after walking across the fields with that orange, with only a guidebook in hand and my grandma's book, with all the places she and her husband had worked. What was I looking for? I wanted to meet their modern-day equivalents and see whether they were doing any good. But I guess I was also looking for reconciliation with a part of my childhood I'd never understood. I'd started where they had, in the refugee camps. I went to Nablus because the guidebook said that's where the biggest camps were. When my grandparents had come here, they were two of a handful of foreigners who'd come to help. Today, the region has more volunteers per person than anywhere else in the world. In Nablus, there were so many that an NGO had been set up just to manage them all.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. So as far as we know, this morning around 6:30, the shooting happened. We don't know who shot. What we know is that there was a settler that was killed and that two more were injured. So we have to be extra careful. Always use your common sense. I don't want to scare you, but I think it's a gloomy atmosphere that we have right now, you know.
Good. So quick check-in with all the volunteers. So Gabrielle, would you like to check in?
Well, I'm fine. I'm fine too. My dancing classes are so much fun. And the girls are 14 and they think I'm like the queen of the castle. They just love me and it's so much fun.
I'm having a bit of an issue with the women's conversation class because I feel like, I know it's kind of funny, I feel like I kind of like scare them in a sense or something because I'm very different, I guess.
These kids that just live there,
Yeah.
they've kicked me, they've spat at you,
The brats that walk around the street.
they're like 4 or 5.
But their family or someone they knew saw them yesterday, hit me really hard, and they just laughed. And that little brat is lucky that I didn't smack him in the face, because he grabbed my ass before. One of the others just like grabbed onto my leg. Do you remember?
Yeah.
They called me a prostitute yesterday.
We picked up one and like in Arabic was saying like it's forbidden to touch women, what are you doing? Kind of thing. And the kid was just laughing.
And so, like, seriously, like, I'm gonna scream at them next time they kind of go near me. Anyway, sorry, I'll shut up now. It's really annoying because I'm making so much effort with my long trousers. You know, it's not fair.
Is that something that you were told to do?
Yeah, you have to dress appropriately. You know, if you turn up in a mini skirt, there's going to be problems. Okay, do you want me to give you a guided tour?
Well, let's decide what we're going to wear.
Okay, right. The cleaner's actually been in today, so it's still not tidy though. It's Le Bras.
So this is your wardrobe?
Yeah, it's not very tidy. The problem is that it's crazy here. Okay, now...
What did you pack to come here and what have you bought?
Okay, now I have a class of boys who are kind of a bit in love with me. So I thought a couple of weeks ago, okay, maybe, you know, the leggings are a bit, like, provocative. So I thought, perfect. I will wear this long skirt, okay? Now, it's to the ankle. I can barely walk in it. Apparently, this is more provocative than skin-tight leggings.
Is it see-through?
When the sun shines on it, you can see the silhouette of my knee through this bit. For me, I just do not see the common sense in this. They could do with, you know, maybe a bit of cultural education.
There's a bunch of stuff to do in the garden today.
They recommended that I see Emma's work.
So that we know what we're doing.
Rather than working in the camps, she was fixing up the garden with some young men so they could open up their own cafe.
We're gonna put the seeds kind of from there. There's kind of a line here from this flower.
Not good if you put it this plant here.
This is not my garden, really.
I know.
Okay, so you can do whatever you want. And I know that you have farming experiences. We'll be back.
From China. Yeah, Chinese. Chichucho.
Why did you think that this would be something that would be helpful here for Project Hope?
I did a community gardening project in a really rough neighborhood in Toronto, and so I think the more spaces like that in areas of conflict, the better. And also just working with plants. It takes you out of yourself. There's a certain magic around it, but I keep really connecting with that energy, that magic.
This wasn't at all what I'd been expecting. I'd been reading about my grandma handing out blankets and medicine in an emergency. But this all looked so permanent, an annual summer camp for gap year students looking for an adventure. I'd wanted to find people like my grandparents. So I was delighted to meet Irene, who seemed a bit different. Older for a start. Irene was writing her blog in the lobby of our hotel. She'd come as a witness to see for herself what was happening here and to report it. Ayash, the hotel manager, gave tours of the camp in his spare time. They'd met a year ago, and she'd come back to live for a few months, rented out her apartment in Montreal. I admired her bravery. Ayash had tipped her off about a nearby village where hundreds of people had been arrested by the Israeli army and been held for days without charge after a settler family had been found murdered in a neighbouring settlement.
Salam alaikum.
Where are you from?
Canada. You're
Canada.
speaking English?
English, yes.
Okay, where are you from?
Norway.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you again. You are from?
From Germany.
Okay, from Germany.
Irene was off to interview the youngest person to be arrested, Julia, a 16-year-old girl, and I'd asked her to go along. She'd been let out of jail that morning after a few days. Her family was still inside. And then suddenly, there was a whole group of us there, all following her around as Julia went back to her family home for the first time since the arrests.
Just remembering the scene from
Oh my goodness.
وهاي لما أخذوه سجنوه طلعوا ردوا أخذوه سجنوه. Very surprised about what happened to you. In this situation,
كل شيء دمروه، عجبوا بالبيت.
destroyed everything.
كل مكان بشوف فيه أهلي.
This is Julia. He was arrested with his father.
Being a witness and taking it back to the West, I knew that was an important thing to do, but I just felt more like a voyeur.
Okay, what they did to her? Did they get interrogated her? What they did to her? When they bring her?
لما أخذوكي أذوكي عملوا شيء.
ربطوا السلاسل بإيدي هون وحطوا سلاسل بجري وغمضوا عيوني وصاروا يدفشوني ويوجعوني في جري.
And she can have help when she was there, or she was alone by herself and they just push her and...
لما كنت أطلب مساعدة ما في حدا بيهتم لي يعني كل بطلب مساعدة
She was
بتركوني.
alone and they hurt her.
Okay, thank you.
جبت التليفون
Did you say you want to stay here?
I would like to stay with her to protect her. If it can be helping, I would like to stay here. Say, like, tonight you can sleep. I'm here. Just one night to feel her better. It will be like a gift for me. So anytime you or Julia need help, you call me, okay? And I'm gonna come.
So how can you help as a foreigner here?
People, they're reading my blog. They don't know a lot about Palestine.
And how many people are reading your blog?
For the moment, around 40 people. For the moment.
I'd seen enough volunteers. I wanted to meet professional aid workers. People told me to go to Ramallah, aid headquarters of the West Bank. I'd seen pictures of Ramallah as a child, a place with lots of tanks. After all, it wasn't that long ago that Yasser Arafat's compound got bulldozed here. But instead, I found a 5-star hotel and lots of cocktail bars with people relaxing after a hard day's aid. I could have been anywhere in Europe.
People say it's a golden cage, and that's actually what it is. But it's not so much for us, the golden cage, because we can go out and come back as we like. It's not that different from places in Berlin or somewhere in Europe. So it's easy life.
It was in one of the bars that I heard about an art house cinema opening up in Jenin, funded by a German foundation. Jenin was known for being the heart of the resistance, and there were reports in the news of growing anti-Western feeling in the camps.
Yeah, I think that the cinema is absolutely amazing because I saw the beginning. I have been here 1.5 years before, and when I entered this room, there was nothing, only a roof, a wooden roof, and the sand ground, no chairs, nothing at all.
The cinema had been set up by Markus Vetter, a German filmmaker. I felt intrigued. The opening film, Anna's Children, was made in Jenin during the Second Intifada, and we were told that some of the young fighters in the film would be joining us on stage afterwards.
This film is one of the films that most touched me. I saw this film before I made the film Out of Jenin, and it gave me the first impression what's really happening, what really means suicide bombing, who is standing behind. So I want to welcome Zachariah's baby on stage. Zachariah's baby, he was a former fighter. You saw him in the film. How did you see the invasion 2002? What was your role?
وكل أنا عمري 33 سنة تحت الاحتلال. الصورة هي نفسها، ما اختلفش فيها ولا أي شيء. نفس الصورة اللي شفتوها بالفيلم الأمام.
Sorry, I'm confused. Can somebody else lead the discussion? I can't lead this discussion. Sorry.
It had been confusing for me too. And then whilst I was changing my tape, someone from the audience asked Zachariah how it felt giving up the armed struggle for the cultural resistance. Zachariah replied that he hadn't given it up and was carrying a handgun on him now. Suddenly, it didn't feel like we were in a European art house cinema, after all.
هذا اللي قصدي فيه، هاي الجملة، مجرد هاي الجملة اللي حكيتها هي سبب إنه يسبب المشاكل لهذا الطفل اللي ولد هلا.
أنت بتحكي صح وأنا معك 100% وغلط كمان، وعشان هيك كمان أنا مغطيه ومش مظهره ومش مبينه، ولكن كمان لازم تعرف كمان شغلة واحدة، فهمت علي؟ إني أنا مطلوب إعدام من قبل الإسرائيليين لأني رافض إني أستسلم. وممكن وأنا داخل وأنا طالع على السينما بعد ما أطلع وأنا نازل على درجات السينما تيجي سيارة قوات خاصة إسرائيلية تقتلني. فعشان هيك بقدرش أتخلى عنه لأني محكوم علي في الإعدام، وحتى هذه اللحظة ما أخذتش حريتي ولا انتهى حكم الإعدام عني.
Is this your project?
Yes. Oh, not mine, ours. But
No, but you set it up.
I set it up with him.
With him? How long have you been working on it?
For 2.5 years now.
Right.
It's just, that's a way for him to at least decide how to die because he is dying.
To be free to decide how to die.
And for freedom, you know, this is what it means for him to be free.
Yes,
Yeah.
I understand him.
Sometimes the cost of freedom
is the reason why I cry, because I understand him. I understand him.
She said she understands that Yeah, and she cries for you.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
He wants everybody should be free.
Yes, everybody.
Yeah. Why did you not take the questions at the beginning of the Q&A? You looked...
I was confused. I knew that this was going to happen, and I didn't know how to control the situation. So, because he knows that I have a different opinion, and I knew I had the feeling that I can't lead it because we have two different opinions, and so I needed someone else to lead the discussion and to withdraw.
And just very quickly, what's your opinion? Because we heard his, but we didn't get yours fully.
Mine is that.
What?
The cinema. Yeah, because films are something wonderful. So I think that people need some kind of hope again, and I think a cinema is hope.
They'd even funded a library full of Fassbinder and Herzog. I just couldn't see what Fassbinder had to do with the people in Jenin. It was all beginning to make me feel very uncomfortable. It wasn't long after that I met Lubna for the first time. I'd been carrying her number around on a scrap of paper that someone back home had given me. She articulated everything I was beginning to feel, and I immediately wanted to interview her.
As in every movement, as in every place where you have occupation, you are not coming to tell the people how to struggle and what to do and what not to do. You have to join them in their struggle. And this is not what's going here. What's going here that you have a group of internationals that will let you know, well, I will support this project and I will not support this project. I will be with you in this activity and I will not be in this activity. And you have to use non-violent and all of these languages of the internationals. Like coming from up, down, and we the people who have the knowledge and coming to save you and all of this.
It was after that I set off for Gaza myself, fueled by Lubna's words. It was the height of the siege after the latest bombing, Operation Cast Lead, which had killed over 1,000 Palestinians. The borders were closed to everyone apart from serious aid professionals. I was determined to try my luck via Egypt. A bus to Eilat, party town of Israel, followed by an 8-hour taxi drive through the Sinai at night, and arriving in time for breakfast with the Hamas border officials.
Excellent.
وبعد الليل هلل يا صباحي على الكروم وحبات التراب يا باي يا باي يا باي.
There I met AD from the International Solidarity Movement.
Yeah, there's a car over there.
So, AD, is it better if more of us come?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's better if there's more internationals, really. There is still a small immunity. It's always a risk.
Lubna had said that coming to help people on their own terms was the only way, in solidarity. And this is exactly what these guys said they were doing. I felt at home.
How many Palestinians have been shot as far as you know? What have you recorded?
Well, this year it's about 16 or 17 near the border. But then there's lots of injuries, and then there's people who are living in fear, and then people who can't access their farmland. We just show at least to the jeeps and the soldiers that come and perhaps take a shot at it that there are internationals watching, and it's not just like they can swat Palestinians like flies when no one's looking like they often do.
How are you doing? How are you?
We were joining local Palestinians on a march into the buffer zone, the land inside the border, which Israel had declared a no-go area, and where Palestinian farmers have a lot of their land. For Vittorio, Adi told me, had been here the longest and was most active in supporting the farmers in the buffer zone. They told me that 2 ISM members had been killed already, Rachel Curry in 2003 and Tom Herndl in 2004. Adi told me to have my hair showing so the soldiers wouldn't shoot me. Okay, so this is the barbed wire. And these guys are going right up to it. I don't know if they're going to cross it.
Salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom.
So we are pretty close now. They want to go closer.
How are you feeling about that, Adi?
Well, I mean, you know, at some point we're going to get close enough one of these days for them to react here. But we'll see now. We'll go a bit closer now.
Habibi, if they shoot me now, I can't come in Akut. Sure, if I survive. No, they are shooting now. I must leave. Can you call me later?
This was not part of the plan. Fucking hell, I'm so not an activist.
No, but the border has been moved. There are internationals here. We are just on a peaceful demonstration. This is Palestinian. Please do not shoot. We are a peaceful demonstration.
I was really nervous about being shot, but I also felt uncomfortable knowing that if I was, the media would make much more fuss about me than about one of the Palestinian women I was marching with. And then a while later, back in Nablus, I heard of the third death, Vittorio, the Italian who'd been on the march with us. He wasn't killed by Israeli soldiers. He was randomly kidnapped and strangled by an al-Qaeda group in Gaza who'd wanted a bargaining chip against Hamas, who had imprisoned their leader. It was thought that they'd lost their nerve and killed him anyway. But the Palestinian press wasn't talking about the death of a hero like the Western newspapers were. It spoke instead about the fear of aid being withdrawn.
يقف الفلسطينيون هنا استنكاراً لمقتل المتضامن الإيطالي في قطاع غزة ويخشون من تراجع حركة التضامن الدولي معهم خاصة وأنهم بأمس الحاجة لمثل هذا الدعم الدولي وهم يسعون لإقامة دولتهم الفلسطينية.
I'd wanted to find out what the biggest aid donors were doing here. USAID, the aid wing of the US government, was everywhere. So I phoned their press office in Tel Aviv. USAID rarely allowed interviews, the press guy said. I told them about my British grandparents and all their good work. He agreed, but only if I stayed off politics, and invited me to their headquarters to meet Michael Harvey, the missions director.
There we go.
I was a bit nervous, as I wasn't used to interviewing people at the top.
What figures are we talking about?
In terms of the total level of funding?
Yeah.
Or annual funding?
Annual and maybe total, and what kind of investment and for how long?
Well, since we came back 16 years ago, we've invested about $3.5 billion into the West Bank and Gaza. Our annual level of funding from the entire U.S. government is about $700 million a year. The amounts going through AID last year was about $400 million, and I expect that it will be approximately that amount this year.
Gosh.
Hello, hi, I'm Chloe. Chloe, yeah.
Suddenly, I was inside one of those flash jeeps you see driving around behind tinted windows. A bodyguard in tow, my own private PR woman, and 2 more jeeps in front. They'd laid on this special tour of all the infrastructures they were building. Schools, hospitals, roads, water. It was impressive.
sign when you came in, right? You got the one which stated the name of the project and...
Is USAID, have you built all of these
USAID, yes, drill and built these and equip them. USAID is the largest contribution to the water system. This is big budget, big money. And you're talking about $40–50 million every single project.
I got it. Their aid projects were bigger and flashier than everyone else's. And then on the way back, I learnt what happened when I came off script.
So there is one major problem. There is not enough water for the people in this area. There is a water shortage.
Just as a kind of comparison, how would these problems be overcome in Israel?
You have to understand that today, Israeli-controlled wells withdraw more water from aquifer in the West Bank than Palestinians do, under Oslo Accords. Plus, Palestinians are not allowed by Israeli side to drill as many wells as they need or as they would like to, as they want to, because there is this permitting authority or permitting mechanism that doesn't allow them to do it.
May I just say one thing?
Yeah.
If this is off the record. Yeah, because the water issue is very political. It is very terribly political and problematic. I would prefer not to have too much discussion on the USAID project in terms of. I mean, if you don't elaborate much more on the political consequences of the water.
Anything, of course.
Yeah.
When the PR lady told me to stop filming, I made a connection. The reason why USAID had wanted me to stay off politics is that the Americans had overseen the deal, which involved Palestinians losing control of most of their water.
Hello, how are you?
What the engineer had also told me was that under Oslo, the Palestinians were only given one aquifer, the Eastern Aquifer, which had been running low of water for many years. The other two aquifers in the West Bank provided water only for Israelis.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good luck
Olivia.
with this
Thanks.
project. It's a wonderful project.
Hello.
Really. Enjoy.
I remember the Oslo Accord, all that handshaking with Arafat and Rabin, and Clinton looking on pleased as punch. And I also remember the angry discussions at home about whether Arafat had sold out his people. I felt like I was seeing firsthand how political aid could be. But I also felt very out of my depth. My grandparents had known that aid alone wasn't enough. They'd had to take on the politics. Grandpa had never forgiven our country from ducking out and leaving the fate of the Palestinians to the new state of Israel, and he felt it was his responsibility to make that right. They'd demonstrated at checkpoints, written to MPs and newspapers, and organised marches. But I wasn't seeing that here. And that was when I got in touch with Lubna again. I was so delighted when Lubna said she would help me. She'd recently returned from the European Parliament, where she'd been lobbying against the occupation, but had come back disillusioned.
It's a huge book.
I'd wanted to show her my grandma's book, so she could understand where I was coming from. A family of do-gooders who'd come to save the Palestinians. I wanted her take on it, this being her country.
Why they wrote this book? They want to show their hero part.
In one way, I've always slightly romanticised my grandma. Everyone always said I was like her. But I don't know. I can't see straight, so I'd really like your opinion.
Did they have a radical message before they left, like to acknowledge the Palestinian people rights to resist?
They tried really hard. They went to the grave really worried about the Palestinian issue and very, very angry with America, Britain, Israel.
And this is explain why you are here.
Yeah, it's bollocks. It's a
Maybe
lie.
It's your
It's
anger
a facade.
about this-
Yeah, I feel
of
really
this.
angry.
Yeah. I don't think people here, internationals, especially those who are working in official positions, really care about making a change. We all know that we're living in a big lie because nothing happening here. Really. It's not improving the situation. It's not changing. It's getting worse.
We had 3 weeks together. I was to pay the rent, she took the mat on the floor, and I had the double bed in the next room.
This is the mosquito that bothered me all the night.
We agreed that I'd pay her to drive me around, translate, and help me find people to interview. It took a few days for us to get to know each other and figure out how we should work together. I didn't help matters by filming her all the time, especially before morning coffee.
What you're following me? All of this you're not going to put in your...
What did you just say?
Don't impose your white camera on the Palestinian people.
The plan was to try and find people who could expose how political and manipulative aid was, now that I'd learnt how damaging that could be. I'd heard about a woman who's investigating the impact of USAID-funded projects on the Palestinian people. It didn't cross my mind that her being a Westerner would be an issue. That was when we had our first run-in.
You feel more, you attend more to believe these people or to take what they say as a professional, as, you know, rather than maybe the Palestinian people, I don't know.
Well,
I mean, this is where is your white part playing a role. Like, you are not aware for this.
And are you aware of it?
If I?
Yeah.
Of course I do. I mean, I observe. I can see. Let's go an international to the water area to explain, and then we will see the locals sitting and suffering. But the international is the one who explaining about the miserable situation. You understand what I mean?
Yes, I do. So what should I do?
I don't know, Chloe. It's your business.
And I heard her. She had a point. Perhaps working with Lubna wasn't going to be quite as straightforward as I'd thought.
Do you mind if we practice with this?
This is just practice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So of course when we met Allegra, an American who'd been investigating USAID, it was all a bit awkward. I kept wondering what Lubna was thinking.
Allegra, where are you from?
I'm from New York.
Oh, really? Oh.
I have a long story, but to make it short, I'm married to a Palestinian from here.
Allegra was researching where USAID had funded a secondary road system to take Palestinians off settler roads.
This is a sellout.
Everything becomes more and more permanent. Every bit of building.
This is not temporary.
Yeah.
This is not temporary measures.
Yeah.
This is not a temporary occupation.
So we're stopping here?
Yeah. No, we go straight. Now, this is the old road, okay, to the villages. Yeah, just go up there to the hill. This is the bypass road they built for settlers, parallel to our road, for all the settlers in the Beitar elite settlement, which is the fastest growing settlement. And it's mostly composed of religious Jews who have a lot of children. So you can see their road is parallel to this road. So here's a two-tiered road system. That road is in much better condition than this one. And if you go further down, it's all fenced, so you don't have access to the parallel Israeli road. Okay, so do we want to stop here and take a view? Okay, so what we're looking at is the settler road, and this is the Palestinian road. This road was built to accommodate the enormous traffic that's coming from the settlement. Part of it you can see over there. And clearly what they've done here is put barbed wire to protect, to block access, but also to protect the settlers from people throwing stones at them. Over there is fencing along the road. And there's no Palestinian access to this road. Their access is through underpasses. Their access north-south. Facilitated thanks to USAID. Maybe we want to stop here on the right.
She wanted to show us how USAID roads were directly contributing towards this dual system.
We're looking at the western side of the Bethlehem district. This is called the Mahror. We have the bypass road, the settler road here, right underneath the hill. When it's fully closed off to Palestinians, this road will be the north-south traverse from Bethlehem down through that area. And there's a tunnel that will go under Road 60 that's already been built and connect to the western villages up there on that hill. As you can see, it's a gift to the Palestinian people.
So how does it feel being a Westerner here advocating for the Palestinians?
Well, I've been here, well, I don't know, you know, yeah, I mean, I don't think of it in those terms, you know. Let me think about it for a second. So at this red sign, we make a right.
What's make an international leave his own problems in his countries and come here to help? I mean, why they don't help in their places with, like, why you didn't become, for example, an active in the US with all the poverty and the racism and the health insurance and all of this? I mean,
make a left here. Left.
Yeah.
I don't think you could generalize on that level. I think you need to ask people individually. I have my reasons for why I came here, and I think this next person have their reason. People...
I mean, it's much important for me that people resist in their countries against their governments and make demonstrations there and activism instead of coming here and teaching us how to resist.
But I guess... Oh, anyhow.
No, I don't... I mean, you have a point, but I don't think so many people come. I don't think it's the... Most people stay at home, and most people come here just come for a few months. I mean, I ended up getting married here. That's why I stayed. In the first Intifada, internationals came from all over and really helped. They didn't come with millions of dollars and didn't come with high salaries. People came, they didn't have any money, and they lived in the camps, and they helped. They helped with the resistance.
Okay, so if you can disattach that from yourself before you get out,
Okay.
and then... So now where?
خلاص.
Enough.
Enough for Bethlehem.
I understood why Lubna had asked Allegra about her personal connection here, but I didn't want to dismiss what she'd said just because she was a foreigner. Plus, Allegra had found a Palestinian engineer at a USAID pump who had agreed to talk to us.
We are in Hebron.
Most drivers don't complain.
Get out of my car. Now.
On the way, I misread the map, so we stopped and asked for directions.
Let's go in. Yeah, open.
شو بتشتغل هون هلا انت مين يطلع مين يفوت على البلد؟
وين بدك تروحي؟
عم بورجيها المحل.
يعني
اكثر بصراحه معنيات في مؤسسه امريكيه اسمها USAID.
USAID هي
قاعده بتخرب في بيتنا، بتبني شوارع لليهود وشوارع للعرب.
كويسه USAID جابت لنا بتجيب لنا مشاريع هذول كلهم CIA.
فانا عارفه هلا احنا بنعمل فيلم ضد الدعم الدولي على فلسطين.
طب USAID كويس يعني عندنا جابوا لنا في محطات المياه بنقدر نخدمكم احنا مضخات وجابوا لنا شغلات كويسه كلها USAID. بدك تعمل لقاء معي يعني لقاء صحفي؟ تفهميني شو يعني ليش بدك تروح تصور الشارع؟ انا معني اني اعرف شو يعني ليش USAID مش كويسه يعني بس معلش يعني
لأنه قوات الشلل من جهة بيعطوا دعم عسكري لإسرائيل.
ايوه
بذبحوا فينا.
اسمعي استنى يا زلمه الله اكبر بس انا سامعني انا اسال
ومن جهة ثانية بيقولوا لكم خذوا شوية مي وخذوا شوية شوارع.
صفي على جهه تعالي على جهه تعالي. طيب يعني هذا شيء مؤكد يعني؟ مؤكد كل المؤسسات هذول تاعت القروض والحاجات.
What are they saying? You have to tell me.
We're having a discussion about the US aid.
And what are they saying? I mean, is it
There is a way that the US aid fixing
in the
here.
middle of building now?
Yeah. I said the same US aid who trying to do a humanitarian work is the same body that supports the Israeli military.
You said that?
Yes.
You're educating them?
Yeah, and then they said, are you sure about it? I said, good morning, you don't know that? So they told me that the US aid...
Lubna was really fired up, as there had been no water in Bethlehem for several weeks, despite USAID's millions of dollars in the area. And so we were off to see Riyad Abu Ayash, a water expert for the Palestinian Authority and based at a USAID pump.
This well and all of our facilities are in the eastern aquifer. The investment in this aquifer is useless. I honestly say, fully comfortable, it's useless.
Does USAID know it's useless?
Of course.
They're totally aware of this.
No, they know it. I'm in several workshops and meetings. Me, myself, I don't want to say anything on behalf of anyone else. I several times in workshops and meetings, I told them, each dollar we invest it in the eastern aquifer is useless.
Did you know, as an engineer, as a specialist, that this would fail, this project would fail?
Of course. Me and all my colleagues in advance. As I'm telling you, there is a new 3 wells now. They are dug as a borehole. From now, I'm telling you, they are failed project.
Because
if I am a decision maker, I will not invest anything in them.
Because the eastern aquifer cannot produce the water.
Yes.
So 45 million was spent on just rubbish. I mean, it's completely useless.
Yes, and it's a matter of time to give up, because if that will stop, I'll get rid of that system.
I don't know whether any other engineers thought USAID's investment was useless. But given that everyone I'd spoken to agreed that the eastern aquifer was running dry, it did make the billions invested look worryingly like a distraction to keep people quiet. It changed little.
What's that film? The 2 American women that jump off the cliff. You ever see it? We're like them.
2 American women?
No, it's the story of 2 women. One of them kills her husband and they go on the run.
I like that.
Lubna had wanted to take me into her world, to meet her people. This is where you'll see the real politics of aid, she'd said. Her friend Jamal was working with a farmer in the Jordan Valley. Funnily enough, this is exactly the kind of place my grandma had described in her book. Finally, I felt like I was in her shoes.
فيمكن قعدوا سنة يعملوا بحوث وحملوا الناس جميل فيه كأنهم جايبينه من دور باتهم وعلى حساب الشعب اللي مثل هذا بيشربوا مي مكترة في مكاتبهم.
It was a toilet.
وهذا المؤسسات الأوروبية هذا أكبر مساعدة للهيدروجين الجي في سي الإيطالي وجاي.
طب خد جملة تعال.
تعال ابوي.
حطها بيننا تعال.
والله بيننا هاي تصير. برضو إذا حطيناك بيننا فيكي تماما عمي إن حماية إلك.
والله يا عمي أنت يعني
باطل عليك يلا يحييك.
محمود عباس هالتشيكنز ضيق.
يا اخي بتعرف شو انا بقولوا لي دائما على شو بتناضلي وبتحاربي لما عندك اللمم هذا. بحارب لشعبي.
وين شعبك؟
شعبي انت شعبي.
الناس
اللي قاعده بنهر البارد شعبي. الناس المقطعه في مخيمات حدود سوريا والعراق هذا شعبي.
اسمعيني عمي.
امي وابوي اللي عاشوا كل حروباتنا ال 48 وتهجروا هذول شعبي. هذا اللمم اللي قاعد هذا.
بدي اكل لك شغله. بدي اكل لك انا شغله.
Is he getting this stuff from the World Food Programme?
من وكالة الغوث.
This is from UNRWA. من متحدة يعني. بيجيبوا لكم كمان؟
بيجيبوا طحين.
طحين؟
نعم بيجيبوا طحين مزرع ومسوس، طولوا لهم نسي اسم الله. قولي لها حطيها انفديها.
خليها معك. You see the bugs.
والله هو. بيجيبوه. ولا أنا بروح له.
They bring it here, but you see it's full of bugs.
ولا أنا بروح له.
بيجيبوا شيء غير الطحين أبو سكر؟
بيجيبوا عدس لكم مسبوق مرقت عنه وزحلقت فيه. زحلقت فيه.
شو يعني عدس بالإنجليزي؟
جميع المؤسسات المنبثقة عن هيئة الأمم وغير هيئة الأمم شافتي شو هو؟ كلياتها مساعدة للاحتلال الإسرائيلي. ما بديش لا الطحينات ولا العدسات يقوموا يخلوا إسرائيل يضغطوا على إسرائيل. أستغل أنا ما بقول يضغطوا على الساوي دولة، أنا مش سياسي. يضغطوا على إسرائيل إني أستغل موارد أرضي المملوكة إلي، يخلوني أرعى في غنماتي في حريتي، يخلوني أبني بيت يتكي أولادي برد الشتاء وحر الصيف، يخلوني أبحث بير أستخرج مي اللي أزرع أرضي، أسد مسد آلاف أغنامي بدل ما هو الطن بأخذه ب2000 شيكل. فخليهم هذول هيئة الأمم تضغط على إسرائيل في هالطريقة هاي بدل سوار الطحين هذا اللي بيجيبوا لي مدرع ومسوس. واجع المستوطنة هاي اللي انكامت في 87. واجع الأرض اللي اغتصبتها إسرائيل. واجع على الورد، واجع على الديشن. هناك في بركة للسمك وفي الداخل برك سباحة، بينما واجع على أرضنا صحراء والمية طالعة من أرضنا.
So where is the city center to go up?
I guess, yeah. Have you been here before?
No, my first time. I have never been.
It was me that had wanted to go to a settlement after visiting the farmer. Settlements had been a big talking point at home. I was surprised that Lubna had never been to one, and I could see how anxious she was.
That's better. Better filming you, sweetheart. You can be my disguise. If I'm filming you, no one's going to mind. Or you can film me, how's that? Then you feel comfortable? It's on. Everything's automatic. Well, it's just, you know, it's like what I imagine California to be like. Look at these houses. Here. The green is completely different. So this is the green that we have in England. This green we have in England, but outside the walls, it's all brown, apart from some of the olives that are nearly ripe, maybe. So there's a fuck of a lot of water coming up here.
It's unbelievable. I have never been in Ariel or in any settlements, but now I understand. I see. No one wants to say that it's apartheid, but the fact that you can move from a Palestinian village to an Israeli village that located in the Palestinian lands with such a huge differences and a huge resources, it's apartheid. To move in between the streets of the settlers and the Palestinian streets, it's apartheid. Yalla. Wanna go for a walk?
After going to the settlement, the farmer's words came back to me. Palestinians didn't need help to live under an occupation. They needed the occupation to end. Everything else was redundant. That evening, Lubna spoke to me for the first time about her daily life as a Palestinian.
I hope it will be fine.
What do you mean?
That I will feel better and stronger and defeat the fear inside of me. I think it's a long time history of being, of having this ongoing struggle, of going like daily life, humiliated by the soldiers, living under the threat of being arrested, having the police coming to my parents and taking me to investigations for 5 hours in the Israeli FBI, threatening on me that they will come to arrest me very soon by helicopter, being in detention in a prison for some time. The personal life, the society, the age, partnership, career, it's too much. And yeah, I think it's all came out. You can't, I'm not a superwoman.
She didn't want to sleep on her own that night. And so we went to bed, still fighting the same battle. She for freedom for her people, and me to stop my people getting in the way of that.
Chloe, I know you are so in love with your camera. More than the movie itself, and more than Palestine. So I know that. But still, it's too late. So turn off the camera and come to sleep.
You're going to sleep now.
Otherwise, you will not find the camera in the morning.
Okay.
I got in touch with a family contact, Chris Gunnis, the spokesperson for UNRWA, part of the UN. This time, Lubna had some questions too. My grandparents had worked for UNRWA in the 60s and 70s, the UN emergency relief for the hundreds of thousands of refugees. But 50 years later, they were still providing all the welfare in the camps. Nothing had moved on.
Look, I can understand why anyone points the finger, and I, from the inside, can understand the frustrations. But what do you suggest? UNRWA disappears? What do you think would happen to UNRWA schools? What do you think would happen to UNRWA students in our classrooms?
The occupation maybe will take care of the situation.
You need to, okay.
help the occupation building the schools and doing the work for them.
Okay,
and
so
then maybe we should find a real solution.
That is why I say there has to be a political framework. In that when there is a political framework, one hopes the occupation would disappear, precisely as you say.
My frustration is just, I'm happy to have this chance to tell you that I don't need
flour and lentil and medicine, but I need my freedom.
I don't need you to tell
Then
me that.
I think if
I
you,
talk to
I think
refugees
if the
all the
UNRWA
time.
just leave, then the situation will be very clear for the world. Let the occupation deal with the situation.
But look, can I just speak for 1 second? You have to be politically realistic. So you say UNRWA should just leave. UNRWA's mandate comes from the General Assembly. So if you feel that, you need to win that argument in the General Assembly. Do you understand? Go and talk to those members of the quartet, for example, who were charged with finding a political solution. The quartet is there to produce a political resolution. Why are you coming and asking a humanitarian organisation why it's not doing politics? Have you spoken to them?
No. I mean,
You just said you didn't.
I
You said
have-
you haven't. I mean, that's they're the people.
I also have questions for you.
No, and I've answered them, but my question's for you.
I'm
I
in
have
trouble
questions
that
for
you
you.
look at my cause as a humanitarian case.
No, I'm not. No, that's misquoting me.
No, you say we are
I'm
doing
saying
a
there has to be.
humanitarian work.
I'm saying there has to be a political solution. But I'm asking you, as a documentary maker, as someone helping with this documentary, why haven't you taken your producer to go and talk to the quartet?
I find it upsetting that you say, "Oh, come on, you're so ignorant and you're so naive."
No,
You know,
don't get me wrong. I
we're
mean,
human
I'm
beings,
saying-
and we're seeing something that
Look,
feels
forgive
for
me,
me
Chloe.
personally.
Forgive me. I don't. I mean,
There's nothing that I need to understand apart from coming here 50 years after my grandparents were here and thinking, what the fuck?
but your grandparents, I'm sure, would agree with me.
Well,
they'd be
no,
equally
because
frustrated.
they were very frustrated and they became political activists. In their mind, they couldn't be here and call themselves humanitarians anymore. They had to politically act.
I could understand Chris's dilemma and felt it was only right that we should take his advice and go to the quartet ourselves. The quartet, Chris had told us, comprised of Russia, the United States, the United Nations and the European Union, and were charged with finding a political solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict. Only then would the stasis come to an end and the General Assembly might be able to disband humanitarian aid organisations such as UNRWA. The quartet was represented by my ex-Prime Minister, Tony Blair.
What's this building?
I don't know.
You don't know?
This one. This
Yeah.
is a hotel.
It's a hotel.
Yeah. What are you looking for?
The quartet, the Middle East quartet. Tony Blair.
No, really, this is a hotel.
Oh, okay.
So even locals were mistaking Tony Blair's brand new office for a hotel.
Some building.
It was all very frustrating, and I was beginning to feel angry about how stuck it all seemed.
Why the fuck is this non-violent resistance? You know, just get violent. It's like there's only, I don't know, I don't get the non-violent resistance.
I don't believe in violence at all. Violence. I can understand where it's come from, but I personally, I don't see myself causing any.
I feel very
pain to
violent.
anyone.
We called Tony Blair's press secretary. Tony Blair was rarely in the country, she said. I said I'd be happy to interview him back home and kept emailing. But the brush-offs became more frequent. Instead, we got a tip-off to go and see Prime Minister Salam Fayyad talking at a press conference about foreign aid.
مدى سلامة السياسة البالية اللي قائمة في توجه أساسي لها على تخفيض الاعتماد على المساعدات الخارجية. يقال على سبيل المثال من جهة قرأت المثال إنه إحنا بدنا نخلص من قصة هذه المساعدات لأنه ما نقدرش على الإطلاق إنه نحط حالنا في موقف إنه يكون قرارنا الوطني مرهون بالأجندات الخارجية. المسؤولية المترتبة عليه كلفة التكلفة المالية في دراسة عملوها أريج بتبين تكلفة الاحتلال السنوي 16 مليار دولار. حدا غير الشعب الفلسطيني تحت الاحتلال بده يتحمل هذه المسؤولية. كمان برضه نقطة وجيهة ما كانش حدا ناقش في ذلك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I just had a really quick question.
I'm really sorry. I do have to go.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'll follow you and I'll ask you a question. What do you think about aid supporting the occupation, foreign aid supporting the occupation?
I just spoke to that. I
Tell
spoke
me
to that.
What do you think?
Aid is supporting Palestinian people in their quest for freedom. Aid has been essential in helping us deal with the needs of our people. It's not, we don't view it as supporting the occupation.
But it's
Actually,
it
enhancing.
It's been going on for so long.
I guess I can see where you're coming from, but we beg to differ. Aid that's been given to the Palestinian Authority has been used importantly in enhancing the capacity of our people to persevere and withstand the adversity of occupation.
But that's the occupation, sure.
No.
It's teaching people to.
No. Just tell me.
Everywhere I've gone, this is what people say.
I understand where you're coming from, but if you really hear me out, most important element of our struggle for freedom is represented by the capacity of our people to continue to be able to persevere. That's the bottom line. At least that's my point of view. Take care.
Standing on those steps, it felt so unsatisfying. I'd tried everything within my means. I'd cornered the Prime Minister, for God's sake. Maybe Lubna was right. What had I learnt here, apart from realising that people at the top weren't able to change anything? Our 3 weeks were nearly up, but I felt no nearer to finding out whether it was possible for the West to do anything positive and helpful here. And so I made contact with an organisation where there were no Westerners. Dahlia, run by women. On their website, they said they were united by a vision to realise their rights as Palestinians and to control their resources. Perhaps this was the answer. Saida had recently refused a grant from the UN because she didn't like the terms they'd set.
هي الوثيقة ضد الإرهاب نصها بيكون واضح في بنود واضحة إيش أنت تتعامل بحدد الناس اللي تتعامل معهم بحدد الناس اللي ممنوع أنت تفيدهم أو تتعامل معهم بالرغم من أنهم هدول أبناء المجتمع الفلسطيني وهم جزء من المجتمع فأنا ليش أنا أتغاضى عنهم أو ما يكونوش مستفيدين من برنامجي أو من منحتي بغض النظر.
So you wouldn't sign this?
No. Yeah. UN. They sign it. Dahlia, no.
And this was for $200,000, did you say?
Yeah.
And you decided?
We refuse.
Lubna explained that many of the poorest people viewed Hamas more as a political party offering genuine community support than a group of terrorists. At last I felt I was seeing an example of aid that was putting the needs of the people first. Lubna seemed so happy to meet them. Saida wanted to show us one of Dahlia's projects in Bethlehem, a dinner lady at a local primary school. I wanted to hear what Saida had to say and asked to be in on the conversation.
Can you just have a conversation about something with them?
But we can't just...
yes, you can. You're an actress.
Like if we talk again, fine, then you can shoot and film.
Okay.
But not like talk, you know. This is something that teases me.
That what?
Like, don't make me feel good that someone with his camera asking me to do something or whatever.
I'm in an impossible situation here. Difficult. It's so hard. So hard to speak.
You know, many Palestinians will not dare to speak Arabic near an international who don't understand. I do it in purpose. I like to do it. I like that they don't understand. I like that. With you, I'm not doing things in purpose, but I feel still more commitment to my people when I'm with them than for you.
if you understand or you don't.
I totally understand.
This is my language. You coming to my place to work, to make money, to be expert, to be political office, etc. Go learn the language.
هاي المدرسة هون؟
هاي المدرسة يعني احنا هذا شغل نعتبره مقاومة. لأن بننتبه للتنمية البشرية تبعت الأطفال. لأن الصراع اللي احنا بيننا وبين المحتل احنا صراعنا طويل الأمد. لذلك الراية اللي بده يحملوها أطفال اليوم جسمهم يكون كويس. فعشان هيك احنا بنلاقيش هذاك الدعم. لأنه هذا المشروع ما بدهم إياه يتكرر.
I don't know whether Lubna meant to ignore me or not, but after a couple of hours I was beginning to feel alienated and didn't understand a word. So yes, it was pathetic, but I couldn't help it.
This is really stressful because I have no idea what they're saying. It's making me angry and it makes me bossy, and I just want to say, do you know what, fuck you, I'm paying for your time, I'm paying for this taxi all day, and you know, we have to be professional about it, but at the same time I can't really say anything because if I do, it's suddenly like I'm, you know, insulting Palestine. I'm really tired.
After our long day with Saida, we went for a meal. Lubna's friend Jamal joined us. Lubna and Jamal talked animatedly in Arabic. I imagined she was telling him about the day. After the salad arrived and nothing changed, I got up and left. Lubna didn't come home that night. I'd left 2 messages. Eventually, she sent one back. As I started to pack up my bag to leave, I was reminded of you two again. That time you described in your book, staying at the American Colony Hotel in Jerusalem and the Israeli police calling. You were given 24 hours to leave. But that wasn't why I was going. I just didn't feel welcome anymore. 50 years after you made that first trip, would you both be coming here now? Do you think you could do any good today? I wonder.